So I may not have come from a family of farmers and I had no idea about farming, but I did come from a family of hard workers and I have given it my all over the last 23 years. So I had many stages of beating myself up for not keeping up, and there's an isolation that comes from living from such intensity and such scale, from being young and feeling on my own. I didn't really know any others in our circles who were raising kids or growing businesses at our age or like this stage that we were. We didn't have time for networking for quite a while. So our kitchen table and the visiting reps for the farming side of things were it. There was no social media back then. I mean, we raised our kids from a book that was called What to Expect When You're Expecting. I remember this one particular incident. My middle daughter, Jalen, I was in the office and I don't know, I was working through something, and I have quite a spicy mind when it comes to numbers. It takes me quite some time to figure out the formulas and understand the strategy around things, and there was a lot to learn. And I remember sitting there thinking, Jalen was playing with the Barbie dolls. But it turns out that she was playing with the Barbie dolls and a pair of scissors. And I'm pretty sure there's lots of mums out there and parents that have experienced the haircut issue. But I remember catching a glimpse out of the side of my eye in the office door, and here she is standing so proud, and she had this literal tribal bang to her hairline. And proud as punch, and a Barbie doll had the same haircut. And I remember at that time, I just started bawling. I lost my mind. I had an outrage. It was just the whole context of things happening in that moment. And I remember ringing Richard, and I was just snotting and sobbing and bawling down the phone about how Jalen had done this haircut and you should see it and whatever. And he calmly listened. He ended up saying to me, "What do you want me to do? Like, what is the actual problem here?" And all I could come up with was, I'm a hairdresser, Jalen's cut her hair like this, and everyone's going to think that I cut my hair. It was so irrational, but it was literally just an emotional explosion of everything. Plus, probably a little part of me was thinking, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to fix that hairdo? There were no TikTok tutorials back then for that whole mess. So yeah, there was a lot of instances for me across that period of time of transitioning through maturity, having mental meltdowns, trying to be an adult while I was still needing to be parented through being an adult and a parent. It was a mess for a while. So there wasn't much capacity for off-farm activity. So it was really important to me that I continued to find ways that allowed me to feel like I could still be me, that this business wasn't me. But again, with a business hat on, and to scratch my inner entrepreneurial itch, which if I look back now, it probably is, you could insert my own self-worth or putting myself first here. I brought more workload in because, well, that's what I knew how to do hard. And I created several side businesses, and these ideas were short-lived. And I realised later that they were purely based and built on my own desperate need to source like-minded connections that were outside of dairy business, that were outside of me being a parent and being a mum and being a wife. So I become one of those annoying women, and I did what farmers hate the most, and I bought a horse. I say I was following in the footsteps of my grandfather. He was a dairy farmer in the town next door when I was growing up. He was also a late bloomer into the horse world. But I think when I look at it now, coming into that age with horses, they probably played a significant role in his life as an outlet too, and from a self-development standpoint, as they were going to become for me. Now, I understand most non-horse people and farmers here really don't want to hear about horses, and I get that. But did you know that they can actually help us uncover our own personal qualities? and they can show us the bits that we need to improve on to become trusted and worthy leaders in our own lives. They are this powerful medium for self-growth and for personal development. If you don't focus on the riding side, if you focus on the ground of building a quality relationship. Now, I'd imagine that horse people that are listening to this can get what I'm saying, but it is a very hard picture to paint to non-horse people. But there is a way, and we will get to that. So this me time with the horses, it really helped me explore my own unique personality and strengths, like relating and communicating to others. When I was younger, my family were always telling me that I was born to talk, but it wasn't necessarily that I was born to talk. But thanks to the horses, I can see that I was born to connect. And I love learning about myself and about others and what makes us all tick so differently. And this really has helped me understand how I'm showing up and the influence or the impact that I have. I'd kind of do the same thing for the farming staff as I was with the horses. And I don't mean saddling them up and sending them round a round pen. I mean by holding space for the conversations that weren't about management, or they weren't about performance expectations or KPIs. And I truly believe that this has really helped our people feel connected and heard, and probably a little bit more human. My biggest impact for me was this horse called Millie, and I received a phone call from a friend saying, I've ran your name in, I know you love your Arabs, there's this 5-year-old, unhandled, untouched, still on her mother, the owner can barely catch her on a good day, but I would hate to think what her fate is. Do you want to take her on? And so I chose to do that, and I can tell you that those 18 months back then were the biggest 18 months of self-growth on myself, and the awareness that was built and the connection. Millie and I went on to have the most remarkably strong relationship and an unmarked endurance long distance riding book. So in endurance, it's long distance is 80k riding at a time. Millie was just this young little lightweight. I was a heavyweight rider, and you have a stringent vet protocol that you have to go through in order to pass each time you go and do those long distance riding. And Millie and I had a clean logbook from the time that we had our career. Now, Millie's personality and the way that she conducted herself in the world was not for everyone. She couldn't have gone on and flourished or done what she did with just anyone. And that's another parallel that we have in our human life with our relationships as well. We influence others daily based on the way that we interact, whether we're talking about body language, voice, behaviours, beliefs, attitudes, conditionings, so many things. We're herd animals too, and horses are no different in their basic needs that they have. They need to feel safe in their team and make sure that everyone's contributing fairly to the community. The difference when you're working with them is they're a prey animal and we are the predator. And they are hardwired in the wild to assess their well-being and safety and making sure that there's no lions preying nearby to attack them or their team. And this same wiring is still in the domestic version. So because of this, you can't force a 500 kilo prey animal to follow your lead. So they really get you thinking about your relationship and your leadership skills and how you're showing up. Are you leading or influencing others authentically and flexibly, or are you selflessly and mechanically based on your own agenda? So have a think, and we'll have a chat again soon.